Gentlemen, welcome to the most comprehensive counterpicking guide on this platform. First off, I want to say thank you guys so much for the support of the last two videos. You guys are goated, and I'm so grateful for everyone who liked, commented, and subscribed. There are many more videos to come, and shout out once again to all my fellow 6v6 warriors. Now, for those of you who didn't see my last video on why 5v5 is complete and utter dog water, my name is Light. I'm the head coach of Illinois State University's Overwatch team. I'm a 6-time collegiate national champion. I peaked rank 7 in Overwatch 1, ranked 29 in Overwatch 2, and I'm a former Contenders player. This video took me a very long time to make, and it's an amalgamation of some of the knowledge that I've developed over my 8 years of involvement with this game. If you learned something, remember to like the video, subscribe, and if you don't like it, you can cry about it in the comments. Now let's get fucking started, boys. Alright, lads. The first thing you guys need to understand is that every single game that you play that has unique characters with a variety of abilities, weapons, passives, personalities, and everything in between share similar concepts that will be universally applicable within this video. I don't care if it's League, Dota, Smite, Overwatch, Paladins, Marvel Rivals, doesn't matter, I don't care. They all share the same fundamental concepts that we're going to be discussing very soon. Now, tac shooters such as Valorant, or Rainbow Six Siege don't count and they're the exception, but nobody cares because those games are dog shit trash anyways. With that being said, every single character in this game can be split into 5 archetypes. Many of the characters have more than one, some even have 3 or 4, but they are all categorized by having a primary archetype that they fall into. That is the Ranger, the Duelist, the Brawler, the Diver, and the Sentinel. Rangers are your standard range characters. They use their range advantage over every other archetype to control space and lock down angles in a variety of ways. Rangers, if left uncontested, will single-handedly carry a game, but are often limited by their relative lack of mobility when compared to other archetypes, and also their vulnerability to close-range combat. Examples include Sigma, Ashe, Hanzo, Soldier, Sojourn, and Ana. The next archetype is the Duelist. Duelists are categorized by their ability to take map control and pressure off angles due to them possessing incredibly strong 1v1 potential. Duelists are able to force engagements on their terms, and unless you're a cuck who likes watching your supports get backshots, it's best advised to never leave them uncontested. A duelist is always looking to exploit their 1v1 capabilities, while simultaneously possessing the ability to deny other duelists from doing the same. Examples include Roadhog, Cassidy, Tracer, Genji, and Kiriko. Next up, we got Brawlers. Brawlers, also often referred to as Fighters, Bruisers, and Vanguards, are designed to be able to outsustain every other archetype. They often have abilities that can pressure multiple targets at once, mitigate damage, heal and lifesteal, as well as having the most health. Brawlers excel in close-range combat more than anyone else, and often struggle due to their lack of vertical mobility to deal with targets outside of their range that can outpoke their sustainability. Examples include Mauga, Orisa, Rein, Mei, Reaper, and Moira. Moving on to the Diver. Defined by their hypermobility, divers possess strong burst potential coupled with having the most movement options in the game. Divers want to get in and out. They lack the sustain of the Brawler, the range from the Ranger, but excel in using their mobility to engage on vulnerable targets with their high burst potential. Often confused with the Duelist, divers are distinct in that as a diver you are required to force and engage, whereas a duelist has many more gameplay options and nuances. As an example, a character can possess an extremely strong 1v1, but lack the mobility to be a diver such as Cassidy. Examples of divers include Winston, Wrecking Ball, Tracer, Genji, and Kiriko. Lastly, we move on to the Sentinel. The Sentinel has abilities that are designed to absorb pressure, deny the enemy team, provide utility, and help their teammates survive. Sentinels are the most flexible of any archetype and are often paired with every other archetype in a team comp to form a general way of play for each composition. Generally speaking, at least one Sentinel will be found in each team composition regardless of what their strategy is due to the nature of their innate flexibility. Examples of Sentinels include D.va, Sombra, Brig, Bap, Lifeweaver, Mercy, and Lucio. Understanding these archetypes and their nature is critical to your success as a counterpicker. I came up with these categories as a method for you guys to use as a baseline to build more complex concepts and nuances off of. With that being said, there will be countless of in-game examples and specific cases where some of this will not apply due to disparity in player skill between each team, the map, or character strength in the current meta. For example, Sigma, a ranger, is a tank who is vulnerable to characters such as Winston, a diver, and Ryan, a brawler, if they are able to close the gap utilizing their mobility. But if the meta revolves around DPS such as Bastion, Reaper, Mei, or any other infamous tank busters, Sigma's viability substantially increases since his counters are countered by the meta. This is why game knowledge is the most important aspect of counterpicking, and it's crucial that you guys do not look at matchups strictly in a vacuum and understand the base fundamentals of the game. My goal of this video is to give you guys that baseline to work off of, and for every tank, we will discuss their archetype, what they excel in, what they're countered by, and by the end of this video, if you pay attention and apply what I'm saying, I promise you, you will reach your goals. One more thing before we get started, lads. I am still offering one-on-one coaching where if you have any specific questions about any certain matchups or general gameplay related concerns that I didn't get to cover in this video, you can click the link down below and ask me there. It's you and me one-on-one, and my schedule is running out of space for too many more students, so act fast while you can. Again, I could not cover every possible scenario, so if you want to go from shitter to winner, click the link. Now, with all my e-begging out of the way, let's begin.
D.va Online.
D.va is the most defensive tank in the game. The first thing you'll come to notice from her stats is that she scores a 5 in tankiness and a 5 in utility due to the capabilities of Defense Matrix. With that being said, as a consequence of her limited range and slow flight speed, D.va lacks the offensive capabilities of other tanks, so she is best utilized to enable her DPS and supports. This is what makes D.va a Sentinel. She is strongest when coupled with vulnerable rangers who typically tend to struggle against the offensive capabilities of divers and duelists. Additionally, D.va is also a very strong duelist as her absurdly high armor to health ratio, moderate mobility, and micro missiles giving her high burst potential up close means that she can easily mark flanks and keep her team safe. D.va also excels against other rangers as she has the health pool and the defensive capabilities through her defense matrix in order to deny them from doing damage. Taking a look at her matchups, D.va struggles against heroes that can ignore her matrix and disrupt her flight. She requires a solid depth of game knowledge and positioning to be utilized correctly, as she is slower than the divers and loses to every brawler in a sustained fight. You'll come to notice that D.va actually has 2 winning matchups. Ball because she can pressure him when he tries to set up and DM his slam, and Mauga because she can matrix the entire duration of his cardiac overdrive. Additionally, she can bomb his cage to force it to break or force him to retreat. Another notable placement is Winston. Winston's placement may surprise some of you, but due to the recent changes that reduced all headshot damage to tanks by 25% and his Tesla gun now ignoring armor definitively swung the matchup in his favor. You can still burst him with your rockets, but given that his jump is faster than yours, he can often ignore you and exert his pressure, generate his value, and kill your team before you can stop him. D.va is not the tank you pick to win the 1v1 tank matchup. You pick her to better enable your DPS and supports while simultaneously denying theirs. Pick D.va on maps where you can abuse your vertical mobility and when you're confident that your DPS and or supports are better than theirs. Avoid picking maps on D.va where you are forced into sustained engagements where you cannot reset your health or defense matrix cooldown using natural cover. Example maps that are good for D.va are Dorado and Gibraltar. Example maps that are bad for D.va are Kings Row and Antarctic Peninsula.
Doom approaches!
My GOAT, my king, Doomfist has been my favorite character in Overwatch since his release. The first thing you'll notice about Doom and his stats is that he's extremely well-rounded. His hypermobility, playmaking potential, and constant disruption make him a viable pick in a variety of situations. However, what's unique and interesting to Doom is while he's primarily a diver, he can also double up as a brawler. This is because thanks to his passive, the best defense, he gains shields every time he hits a target with his abilities. The amount of shields he gains is relative to the amount of targets he hits, and naturally, in a brawl setting, this is very easy to do. This is what allows him to keep up with primary brawl tanks if played correctly in the proper setting. With that being said, Doom is extremely difficult to pilot, and I would not advise picking him up unless you're committed to learning what he has to offer. For most of you, Doom is best used in place of Winston if your team needs a dive tank and the enemy team counter swaps to characters like Bastion, Reaper, Torb, etc. Doom is best played into brawl comps as he is heavily rewarded for hitting multiple targets with his abilities. Doom especially likes to be paired with Ana because he can capitalize off of her anti-nades and her nano better than almost any tank in the game. For DPS, it's best advised that you have at least one other diver on your team to help you capitalize on the pressure that you're going to be creating, slam cycling and using your punches to capitalize on kills. Moving on to his matchup chart, the one thing that I want to point out over everything else is that if the enemy team goes Mauga, Get the fuck off of Doom. It is unplayable, and Mauga is so broken into so many tanks, and we're gonna get into that piece of shit later in this video, but please save yourself and your team the headache and just swap. You don't have the damage to outpressure his sustain, your mobility is irrelevant, and you can't ignore him like Orisa or Roadhog because he just charges at you and chases you. His cage completely shuts you down, and you just die, and just get the fuck off the character. It's not worth it. Fuck Mauga. Moving on from that piece of shit, we'll talk about your easy matchups. Ramattra is super free for you because he doesn't have any way of stopping you from bullying him. You can cancel his nemesis block with your punch, you can kite his ultimate, you can punch his ult away, you can farm your power block off of his ult as well. His slow doesn't do anything besides make your slam come out faster, you can punch right through it. There's just nothing that Ramattra can do in this matchup, and it's super free for you. Ball suffers from the fact that you can completely deny his engage by punching a slam right before he lands. You can also destroy his ultimate entirely with 2 cycles of your shift. Some DPS you'll want to watch out for are Pharah, Echo, and Sombra. Pharah and Echo have the ability to stay out of your range, poke you out, and kill you if you ever try to get close, and Sombra because she can hack you and disable all of your abilities and cancel everything that you do. Do not pick Doom when your supports are playing characters that have low healing or pocketing your DPS. Don't pick them with Zen Brig, with Mercy Zen, with Alari Zen, anything like that. Avoid Doom at all cost. You're too mobile for them to heal you, and you're not mobile enough to get the health packs and still be useful, so just avoid it. Examples of good Doom maps are Ilios and Esperanza. Examples of bad Doom maps are Havana and Circuit Royale.
Time for the reckoning!
A true fan favorite. Junker Queen is the pinnacle of tank hero design in Overwatch 2. Everything in her kit is designed to help her close the gap with abilities that promote engaging gameplay that are both fun for her and fun to play against. It's too bad this hero's fucking dog shit and outclassed by most tanks in almost every single meta. Taking a look at her stats here, Junker Queen's entire game plan revolves around her shout and her ultimate. Now, some of you might say, Coach Light, you incredibly good-looking, intelligent, and jacked world-class coach, Kiriko will just Suzu it. Well, dear viewer, I have great news for you. For most of you watching, the Plat Kiriko on the enemy team is not going to be thinking about your ult and will blow it to win his little 1v1 with Tommy No Thumbs on the other side of the map, giving you the opportunity to touch the enemy team. Even in rare cases where you're playing against a Kiriko that is actively thinking about it the entire game, you're still denying him from using one of the best cooldowns in the game, and I promise you if you're patient, he will burn it and you will roll. With that being said, ultimately you pick Junker Queen for the shout. This is what makes her a sentinel. All you're looking to do is live and shout your DPS to take aggressive angles, dives, and positions as they're given movement speed and overhealth that make a significant difference in their duels. Now, while Queen is primarily a sentinel, she does have some brawling capabilities in her kit thanks to the healing that she gets from her bleeds through her axe, through her melee, and through her right-clicks knife. Her damage is also very high, however, she's still going to lose against all the other brawl tanks if you can't win the fight off of the first or second shout. And that is exactly why I recommend playing Queen into dive tanks. Taking a look at her matchup chart here, you'll notice that her easiest matchups are both Winston and Ball. This is because her high damage can help pressure them out, her axe ignores Winston's bubble, her knife can disrupt both their engage and their disengages, as well as her shout helping to protect your team from their high burst damage. Look to play Queen when you have mobile DPS that can capitalize off of your shout. Examples would be Sojourn, Genji, and Venture. Also, please for the love of Christ, never pick this character when you don't have Lucio on your team. It's just GG. Just pick D.va or Sigma instead. It's just way worse. Now, as for her bad matchups, Queen struggles heavily against brawl tanks in general. Zarya specifically is very hard because she cleanses all of your bleeds with her bubbles, she can grab you out of her ult, and she does more damage than you. Additionally, every time you shout your DPS, she has bubble off cooldown because her bubble cooldown is shorter than your shout cooldown, so you're guaranteed for the target that your DPS are trying to engage on to always get bubbled if the Zarya is good. That means she'll always be charged, always be doing more damage than you, and overall it's just a terrible experience, and unless you want to get some more back shots, just swap. Ryan in particular is interesting for me because I don't think that people have the same opinion that I do that it's this bad for Queen, but I definitely think otherwise. He completely stops your ability from following up on your DPS with your shout. Anytime you get in close range, he will swing on you, he will shatter you, he will pin you, and it's just overall super hard for you to do anything. He's just a massive brick wall in your face that you cannot move. Avoid picking Queen if your DPS are worse, if you can't close the gap due to the map, and never, for the love of Jesus Christ himself, pick this character without Lucio. Oh my god, don't do it.
Hey, No, stop. Just calm down. Don't do it.
A gun in each hand and a smile on my face.
Here we go. What is there to say about this absolute abomination of a hero that hasn't been said? This character is the most 5v5 stat check piece of fucking dog shit I have ever seen in any video game. He either has the numbers or he doesn't, and if he does, he absolutely clears every single tank in the game minus D.va, Sigma, Orisa. It's unreal what they were fucking cooking in the kitchen when they burnt it down coming up with this character. Anyway, Mauga is the king of all brawlers. His damage, his lifesteal, his sustain, all of it. If he is in range to be able to shoot a target consistently, he will win. No questions. If Mauga can shoot you, he's going to outlive you. It's that simple. Mauga also doubles up as a sentinel because his shout doesn't just work for himself, but for his team as well, because of course it does. Awesome. On top of all of that, he just chooses when you get to die whenever he drops his cage fight. And the only thing short of a miracle from Jesus Christ himself that will save you is a character that has some type of way of getting through that shield or your entire team collapsing in to save you or bail you out with their broken support cooldowns. Monkey can't do anything. He primals you cage fight, he dies. Ball is fucking useless. Queen can't do anything. Hog is super useless because you could just insta full heal with your E now off of him. Doom is worthless. Cage fight insta dies. Ramattra is worthless. He puts up his block. You heal all of your health off of it. Fucking unplayable. Ryan is worthless because you just shoot his shield out and then kill him. Zarya is a little bit better than all the other ones because she can cleanse your burns, but she still doesn't have the uptime that you do, so you just out-sustain her and kill her anyways. It's so brain dead, guys. Can he shoot you? Yes or no? If you can shoot the enemy tank, pick Mauga. If you can't, don't pick him. Sig, D.va, Riss are good for the reasons I just said. D.va can matrix your entire duration of cardiac overdrive. Sigma has a matrix as well, and his shield, and he can poke you while he's damaging you. Orisa, Fortify, at least at the time of recording, nullifies crits completely from burns, so that could be subject to change in the future. However, right now, Orisa has a very good matchup into him, even though her numbers aren't that great. But again, that's subject to change. And even if you do swap to these characters, all of them get hard countered by other characters, so you just end up doing this back and forth 5v5 tank swap that I talked about in my other video, and it's just, this character causes so many fucking problems, man. I just fucking can't. But the only thing you need is Lucio. Other supports don't matter. Other DPS don't matter. It doesn't matter what you're playing against either, unless it's D.va, Sigma, Orisa. GG's.
Why are you the way that you are? Honestly, every time I try to do something fun or exciting, you make it not that way. I hate so much about the things that you choose to be.
Meet your fate!
Speaking of dogshit characters that nobody likes, we have Orisa. Another demon in the brawl. Orisa really excels at bullying the other tank completely out of the game. Taking a look at her stats here, you'll notice that Orisa is pretty mediocre across the board. The only thing that she really has going for is how ridiculously tanky she is, especially when she has Fortify up. And if the Orisa player is good, her ability to cycle her cooldowns means that she could basically live forever, especially in low elos, where everyone sits in the same lane and shoots at each other. I'm sure this goes without saying, but Orisa is a brawler, and only a brawler. She doesn't have any other thing that she provides to the team other than being extremely tanky and being able to bully the other tank in the 1v1. Because of all of these reasons and her matchup chart, Orisa is the ultimate blind pick tank if you need to brawl. She's a winning matchup against every single brawl tank in the game except for Zarya. Zarya specifically has the ability to laser right through her spin, which completely fucks up her cooldown cycle, and her bubbles prevent her from being CC'd, which is a really big deal because a lot of Orisa's game plan is to move you around, push you into corners, or push you back into her team. Sigma, for similar reasons, is also really challenging for you. He can stop you from bullying him and moving him around, he can poke you from the safety of his shield, and he has counterplay to every single one of your options. Overall, this matchup is just really, really challenging, and you have to be way better than the Sigma player, or your team has to be putting a lot of pressure on him from opposite angles in order to make this matchup playable, but it's best advised to just swap. Winston's a little bit different in that he just goes off the motto of if he can't break through the brick wall, he'll just go around it. Orisa, unlike other brawl tanks, doesn't have any mobility whatsoever to stop divers from killing her team. This is why I recommend to most players who have the ability to play Winston or even Wrecking Ball choose to do so, as if the map is open enough and it's not a map like Control Center or King's Row, you can literally just ignore because she can't stop you from killing her team. It's so free. Pick Orisa when you're not sure what the enemy tank will play and you need a blind pick for the brawl. This can either be on call maps, flashpoints, pushes, defenses on escorts or hybrids. It doesn't matter. If you know that you're going to be in a brawl situation, picking Orisa is always a good route to go unless they go Zarya. One caveat to her though is while she does win against pretty much every brawl tank in the game, like I've said, she does struggle a lot to deal with ranged poked damage. So just be extra careful that you're not forcing her into rangers that are carrying the game, even if you feel like you're doing well in the tank matchup. There's a couple things I want to add though to her winning matchups. For Ryan, make sure you're always thinking about his pin and his shatter. Fortify makes you immune to both, however you can spear him out of both as well if you're watching out for it. Additionally, if you don't have either of these cooldowns up and he pins at you, you can, if you position correctly, spin him out to the side and away from you and your team. Roadhog is another matchup I want to point out because he's made a little bit more difficult since his rework where they put his heal on a gauge now. In the past, you could just throw your spear at him when he would heal and it would cancel it completely and go on cooldown, making the matchup pretty unplayable for him. I recommend against new hogs saving your cooldowns for whenever he is forced to use his hook because you have more mobility than him surprisingly because of the movement speed from your spin, and you can cancel his abilities with all of your cooldowns pretty much. Just be careful about his ult. That's the only way that you can die. If you fortify, all the damage will get blasted in your face, and if you don't, you're going to get pinned into a corner by a die anyway. So just be extremely careful for that and you should be good. And one final thing for Mauga, all you have to do to win this matchup is to just save Fortify for whenever he uses Cardiac Overdrive. It's that simple. Orisa cannot be crit at all while in Fortify, and this includes Mauga's passive with his burns. Example maps that are good for Orisa are King's Row and Shambali Monastery. Example maps that are bad for Orisa are Gibraltar and Dorado.
Suffer as I have.
Ramattra, similar to Doom, is one of the most well-rounded tanks in the game. He's almost never a bad pick, and his flexibility between his Nemesis and Monk form mean that he has the tools to deal with a variety of matchups and situations. Additionally, Ramattra sports a low skill floor given that mechanically he is very simple. However, he has an extremely high skill ceiling as you need to understand your limits and your damage margins because they are very tight, as hitting every punch in Nemesis form is crucial to securing kills in a fight. Taking a look at his stats, you'll notice Ram is decently well-rounded. His tankiness, adaptable kit, and his incredible ultimate that not only gives him an armor refresh, but basically guarantees that he wins a majority of scrappy overtime fights, makes him very difficult to deal with. Ramattra is unique in that he's one of two tanks in the game that is both a brawler and a ranger. While predominantly the focus of his gameplay is around his Nemesis form, his Monk form does give him the ability to contend with other heroes at range due to his weapon having 0 fall-off damage and an AoE slow. Now at this point you may be asking, Coach Light, you jaw-droppingly handsome bastion of everlasting knowledge and wisdom, if Ram is so good at all ranges, what counters him? Ramattra's core weaknesses revolve around his vulnerability to and lack thereof hard CC, as well as his lack of vertical mobility. You'll notice that these very weaknesses are reflected directly into his matchup chart. Orisa and Doom throw you around like your average shitty plat take on Reddit, and for the love of Christ, unless you are a pro player, I don't care where you are, I don't care if you have your ult, either run back to spawn or jump off the map and switch if they go Mauga because this matchup is unplayable for you. Unless you want your asshole stuffed by 700-pound Samoan Jesus, you best swap before you end up like a Thanksgiving turkey. Just please, for the sake of your teammates and your own sanity, don't try it. As for his good matchups, D.va and Sig are super easy since you can punch right through all their defenses. Ryan is close to Freelo, but you have to be careful of his pin and shatter. I recommend playing Ram if you ever don't know what to play. While he is rarely the best pick in a given situation, he's always reliable and has the tools to deal with every other tank in the game if you know what you're doing. Ramattra is also an excellent tank to learn the role through, since he rewards game knowledge more than any other tank in the game due to his sheer versatility. Ram can be played on just about any map, just make sure that you're aware of the situations that's right for him based on everything we just covered.
Hammer down!
Probably the most iconic tank in the game, Reinhardt stole our hearts with the release of Overwatch 1 back in 2016. He is the tried and true tank and probably what most people think about when they hear the word and what it's meant to represent. It's too bad this hero is a worthless pile of dog shit for most of his tenure in Overwatch. Judging by his stats and the nature of his design, we can note that Rein has very clear strengths and weaknesses. His shield and earth shatter give his team the opportunity to secure kills, make plays, and pressure the enemy team without putting themselves at risk. Additionally, his pen gives him mobility options, and his hammer has the ability to hit multiple targets at once without ever having to reload. However, his absolutely abysmal range is his greatest weakness. Unlike Mauga, Rein does not have CC immunity on his pen, nor does he have any other forms of damage mitigation other than his shield. This makes him struggle against most of the casts in the game, as they have the tools to deal with everything Rein wants to do. Rein is completely useless if he cannot close the gap, so picking characters that can stay at range and poke him out are going to be your best bet. Even though I would classify him primarily as a brawl tank, he can also be considered a sentinel, which I believe much more accurately represents the playstyle and niche he fills within the game. In my view, Rein is the best brawl tank against spam-based comps. The nature of his shield being the biggest and tankiest in the game means that his team is given the option to close the gap and hold their ground where they would otherwise not be able to against certain kinds of heroes and playstyles. While he can function in the brawl and does have the tools if you are a better player to win, you're better off picking a character like Ramattra, Orisa, Mauga, etc. if you think it's going to be a brawl versus brawl mirror. Examining his matchup chart tells us a couple of things about Rein. You'll notice that Rein is neutral or losing to most of the casts in the game. I already outlined why JQ is easy for Rein in her section, but just to reiterate, Queen has no means of getting around you, your shield, nor does she ever have any hope of beating you in a duel. She has nothing to stop you from swinging on her, nor can she stop you from pinning her or shattering her and her team. Sig alone is super easy, as you can shield his rock and your swings go right through his grasp and shield, but just make sure that the rock is down before you pin or it will get cancelled and you'll take a shit ton of damage. The only problem with Sig is the characters that he's typically paired with. Sig within a brawl context can work, however it needs to be against characters like Bastion or Pharah, where you can absorb their damage. It is much more effective at surviving than Rein is. So just keep that in mind, that while you do win the 1v1 against Sig, Sig is strong against the characters that touch you. As for your losing matchups, you can't do anything to stop Hog from outpoking you or hooking you or your team into his. You die every time he has whole hog if he wants, and with Ramattra, he outranges you at all times, he can punch through your shield, Orisa stops you from doing anything that you want to do, beats you at all ranges, and Mauga, good fucking luck, bro. GG's. For his maps, avoid picking Rein on maps with a lot of verticality unless you are in team play with a very specific strategy. Other than that, you can pick him anytime the situation calls based on the criteria that we just went over. Also, unless you're a top 500 one-trick or a pro player, don't you dare fucking pick this character without Lucio. Please Christ, don't do it.
Hey! No! Stop! Just calm down! Don't do it!
Say bacon one more time.
Another monstrosity due to the failure of 5v5, Roadhog has the potential to completely take over a game. Assuming you're reliably and consistently hitting your hooks, there's almost nothing the enemy team can do to stop you. Hog has benefited more than any tank in the game from the 5v5 power creep I mentioned in my penultimate video regarding the subject. Go watch it if you want to know what I'm referring to in detail, but we will cover some of it here shortly. Examining his stats shows us that he's incredibly tanky and has an extremely strong ultimate coupled with his damage output. Interestingly enough, Hog is the only tank in the game that I would classify as a solo duelist. This is because of his self-reliance thanks to his heal, his dueling potential, and his ability to isolate targets make him an incredible solo queue machine. On top of all of that, his ult is basically a death sentence to almost every tank in the game, which is especially potent given the recent patches making playing tank feel like Godzilla versus fucking King Kong. Hog's primary weaknesses is his massive hitbox, lack of mobility, and his limited range. Try to think of Hog as having a red circle around him at all times that represents his hook range. If you ever enter the circle, you can die to him. If you don't, you can't. It's that simple. At least that's how it used to be before he got power crept to absolute fucking oblivion thanks to 5v5. Shout out Blizzard. It's so bad now to the degree where his strengths are too overbearing for his weaknesses to even matter, and that's reflected precisely in his matchups. Hog should always lose to heroes like D.va, Zarya, and Sigma, but he just has too many stats at the time of recording to be pressured out and denied of what he wants to do. Even against Orisa, his historically worst matchup is now completely playable for him since they moved his heal to a gauge instead of making it a cooldown that she can cancel whenever she wants. Nowadays, thanks once again to power creep, Mauga is the only character in this game that truly counters Roadhog, which is even worse because he's even more problematic. If you really need specifics on why, just go watch my last video on my rant about the start of Season 11 with these terrible fucking tank changes. Anyway, when dealing with Hog, keep in mind the way he takes space is different from other tanks. He has no mobility, so he has to use natural cover and flanks to start forcing players to interact with him if they don't want to get flanked and killed. Picking characters that can always ensure that they can stay out of his range regardless of the map are going to be your best bet to shutting him down. Besides Mauga, I recommend you pick heroes such as Ana, Bastion, and Mei, as Hog has no means of quickly escaping if caught out. You want to avoid picking Hog on maps where rangers can reliably poke you out and the map does not allow for flanks to secure kills. Also, be careful of coordinated brawl teams as you have no means of escaping if they run you over. Hog thrives in disorganized play, so keep that in mind when considering him going into a game. Additionally, you can pick Hog if your supports are playing for fun and picking garbage-ass support comps where you're not going to get healed and their tank is getting a fucking pocket up his ass. One more thing to note is that you do have the option of just sitting in main and fishing for hooks on their tank, but it's situational and depends on too many factors for me to cover in this section of the video.
And I've got to say, in all honesty, it's the biggest piece of dog shit.
What is that melody?
Sigma was a critical addition to the diversity of playstyles in this game. Until Ramattra, Sigma was the only tank in the game that could be classified as a ranger. His abilities and kit are designed to help him facilitate long-range engagements and damage mitigation thanks to the flexibility of his shield and his grasp. Now yes, I do understand that the game is terrible when Sig is good, but trust me boys, as the president of the Spam Comps or Cringe Club, I understand, but it is healthy for the game to have multiple playstyles to be viable. Moving on, bar his mobility, Sigma is extremely strong across the board. He has everything you could ask for in a kit. A stun, insane damage output, some of the best damage mitigation in the game, and a strong ultimate. He excels playing with and against other rangers, especially on maps such as Circuit Royale, Havana, and Junkertown, where the long-range heroes often take over. Additionally, Sigma can be played in Brawl if the enemy DPS gravitate towards heroes like Torb, Bastion, and Hanzo, since you have a greater means of denying their damage compared to other tanks that you could pick in the role. Bastion specifically is really free for you since you can deny the entire duration of his turret form with your grasp, granting you like 800 health. With that being said, Sigma is extremely weak to characters that can close the gap on him and stay there. While he does have the ability to basically one-shot most DPS and supports in the game up close, any character that has the means of avoiding that or surviving the burst damage can kill him, especially since most of the heroes that can do that often have means to avoid his grasp entirely. Be especially mindful of beam heroes like Mei and Sim, as their primary damage sources go right through your grasp, as I just aforementioned. Zarya is a bit of an exception because while she does beat Sig if she gets charged, if she doesn't, Sigma has the advantage in the neutral. Ramattra is by far your hardest matchup since he can do everything that you can do, while even though he's worse at range, he dominates you up close and can easily kill you in one rotation of his nemesis form since his punches ignore both your shield and your grasp. Very rarely are you picking Sig to counterpick the enemy tank. You pick him to counterpick the enemy DPS who are taking over with their wide array of one-shots and spam. Realistically speaking, Orisa and Mauga are the only two exceptions where I can see you picking Sigma as a counterpick and it being the best option. For Orisa, just remember not to let him spear you out of your grasp or rock, and for Mauga, save your grasp for his cardiac overdrive and get on your knees and beg your team to help you when he cage fights. If you have all three cooldowns up and you cycle them correctly, God willing, you will survive. Also against Mauga in the neutral, never let him slam you out of your grasp. That's the only way he can win. Other than that, you should be fine. Sig can work on just about any map, but remember, prolonged CQC is your weakness, and if you play against heroes that can out-sustain you there, you will lose. One final note about Sigma is be wary of hypermobility heroes that can get around all of your cooldowns. You have zero mobility outside of your ult, so oftentimes if you position incorrectly, a character like Winston, Ball, or Tracer can just run past you and kill your team.
A better world is possible today.
King of the Dive, Winston is deceptively strong and difficult to play. Many low elo players don't see the vision with this hero, but if you are a tank player that's serious about improving and or going pro, Winston is probably the most valuable hero that you can have in your pocket. While he has his bad matchups in maps where he's unplayable, historically speaking, he has more often than not had a place in the meta. Winston sports a solid array of stats, with his ultimate being the strongest part of his kit, especially if it's able to be piloted correctly.
He's got that promo in case he needs to go for the reset at the end of that nano boost. He's gonna have to be forced to pop it here. Good positioning to do that too, because the payload is still moving around.
Now I understand none of you are Smurf, but I hope that clip can demonstrate the incredible potential of Winston's ult when mastered. Moving on, if it wasn't obvious already, Winston's strengths revolve around his mobility, reliable damage output, and his bubble. His Tesla gun is incredible. For those who don't know, it ignores armor completely, it can hit multiple targets at once, and it goes through barriers. Additionally, his bubble not only protects him and his team from incoming damage and crowd control, but it also isolates targets from getting healed. This gives Winston and his team a greater opportunity to secure kills during the burst windows of his dives. Winston's weaknesses come from the fact that he does not have the means of surviving prolonged fights, and his limited range and lack of utility outside of his bubble means that he's forced to engage at some point. Knowing these engage timings, how to jump, and where to jump is critical to playing Winston, especially into his mini counter picks. Inversely, it's equally important that as the counter picker, to understand how he works so you can best deny him from what he wants to do to get value. In order to deal with the monkey, you have to understand that his most vulnerable window is the brief amount of time when he lands after using his jump to engage, and or when he burns his bubble. If you are not able to kill him during this time frame, or at the very least pressure him out immediately over a consistent period of time, you will lose the game. This is because every time Winston's resetting, he's building ult charge for himself and for his supports, and given that Winston's ult is absolutely broken, he will carry the game with Primal Rage, with Nano, with Kitsune, all of that shit. If you let him farm, you have to kill him before these threats come online. Characters with high burst damage and crowd control are excellent options to shutting the Space Monkey down. Both Junker Queen and Roadhog have methods to pull you back in when you jump in or away, and also bring a heavy amount of damage to pressure you into making a mistake or straight up killing you. Bastion and Reaper also give you a hard time, but Bastion specifically is a super hard matchup for you because he can immediately force you out or kill you if you're not careful with his tank form. Reaper isn't as bad because good Winston players are good at avoiding him and jumping past him and kiting him with his bubble. You also might want to watch out for Pharah and Echo because they can ignore you and put a lot of damage into you without you ever being able to do anything to them. Tracer also gives Winston a hard time if all you do is shoot at him and pulse him because Winston wants to have all of his health and armor, ideally before he jumps in, and if you're able to deny him from doing that, it means that your team will have a much easier time dealing with him. Winston versus Mauga is the most one-sided matchup in the game. I don't care if your name is Fearless, I don't care if your name is Smurf, I don't care what's going on in the game, where you are, if you have your ultimate, immediately go back to spawn and switch, otherwise you deserve to be mass reported and IP banned for win trading. It is unwinnable, don't fucking try it. Don't do anything, just swap. The only exception is if you are on a high ground based map where you are confident as a team in your Winston play, playing around it with specific characters. Other than that, for 99.99999% of people watching this, just fucking get off the character. Moving on to your good matchups, Zarya is free low for you because it's impossible for her to get charge against you due to the nature of your weapon, and even at high charge, she doesn't have the damage to kill you before your jump comes back off cooldown, giving you the ability to kite her, dive past her, or even kill her if she doesn't have bubbles and you have yours because you can isolate healing from her. Orisa falls into a similar vein due to her lack of mobility and damage to pressure Winston out. Half of her health is armor, which doesn't even affect him, and there's nothing that she can do to stop you from killing her team. Additionally, if she ever mispositions without fortified, you can kill her by bubbling her off. As I aforementioned in the Mauga portion, Winston is extremely map dependent. He will get absolutely obliterated if he's forced into CQC without any means of resetting his health and his cooldowns. Abusing high grounds is critical to his gameplay loop, and as such, maps that are great for Winston are Dorado and New Bonnie. Example maps that are bad for Winston are New Junk City and New Queen Street. Pick Winston into Rangers or Divers as you have excellent tools to deal with both. Additionally, it's almost always a good idea to pair him with Ana as he is probably the best nano target in the game, and he can follow up on nades extremely well.
Weapons operational. Grapple primed. Hamster pumped.
We've finally made it to the black sheep of the bunch. Ball took a while for people to figure out in 5v5, yet thanks to several direct buffs and general power creep of the tank role as a whole, it's in my belief now that Ball has solidified himself as one of the best tanks in the game. The primary problem with this character is how unique he is and difficult to play. There is nothing like him in any other video game that I've ever seen or to my knowledge, nor does he play like any other hero within Overwatch. Ball takes time and dedication to learn and hundreds if not thousands of hours of games to master. Because of this, I almost never recommend picking Ball because there are other tanks in the game that can do what he does, except they're easier to execute. Additionally, they don't require the same amount of time commitment and grind that Ball takes because of how mechanically weird he is. However, if one is intent on playing him, it is my belief that Ball is best picked against Rangers as a nature of his incredible mobility and tankiness that grants him constant pressure and strong 1v1 capabilities against them. This is what makes him both a diver and a duelist. Because Ball has by far the best mobility options in the game, he can choose precisely when he wants to fight and where he wants, no matter what the map is. He can take angles incredibly quickly, and Tracer Sombra are the only two DPS in the game who can ever stop him from engaging on his terms. The best scenario for Ball is if you're playing against double ranger DPS and they don't have Ana Zen or Ana Break. He's also a great option if your supports are playing low heal comps like Brig Zen, Alari Zen, Mercy Zen, etc. This is because, once again, thanks to his hypermobility, Ball is very independent and can get a large portion of his healing from health packs while still providing consistent rotations and uptime in the fight. In order to deal with Ball, you have to be good and understand how to juggle the right amount of attention on him. Ignore him for too long and he will kill you. Focus on him too much and his team will kill you. The key to dealing with Ball is to play characters that can defend themselves even a little. His low to moderate damage can be outsustained by most supports, but you want to give yourself the best chance to survive as possible, as he can come from anywhere at any time. CC is also an excellent option. Heroes like Sombra, Mei, and Cass can completely shut him down, especially if they're paired together. Dive heroes also work well against him, as while you won't be shutting him down directly, you will be taking away a target that he can reliably bully and engage on, which makes his life more difficult as he's outclassed in dive mirrors by heroes like Winston and D.va. You'll notice from his matchups that Ball is either neutral or losing to every tank in the game. However, unlike every other tank, Ball has the stats and mobility to mitigate his losing matchups and stomp his neutral ones if you're good enough. Doom is a great option to deal with Ball, as his punch completely kills all of his momentum and his slam if you time it correctly. Additionally, his shift can clear all of Ball's mines in 2 rotations. Both JQ and Hog are also great options, as they provide a load of upfront damage and crowd control. Other than that, he's fair game on every other map if you're good enough and or the situation calls for him.
Огонь по готовности!
Last, but certainly not least, we have the beast from the east, Zarya. Zarya has very high highs and very low lows. This hero goes from the worst character in the game to the best if she can maintain high charge with both bubbles and staying close to mid-range. Taking a look at her stats, Zarya might not be as tanky as her peers, but her bubbles are invaluable if timed correctly. Not only does she gain more damage, but the ability to completely cleanse any effect and save a teammate from ultimates such as Mei's Blizzard, D.va's Bomb, and Tracer's Pulse Bomb means that she can always find her value. Her ultimate is also incredible and iconic. It sets up a plethora of combos and completely disables movement abilities for the heroes unfortunate enough to be caught within its grasp. For these reasons, Zarya is both a sentinel and a brawler. Her bubbles provide her team with the ability to force extended trades, take aggressive angles, and secure more value from their ults by protecting them from CC and other ailments. Once she gets her charge, she has the ability to fry anything and everything that comes within her range. With that being said, Zarya's greatest weakness is her lack of mobility coupled with her limited range. Any character that can skirt around these 2 weaknesses are going to make her job much more challenging. Remember that if she's unable to get charged due to the heroes on the enemy team outranging her or flat out ignoring her, she is the worst tank in the game. For this reason exactly, it is extremely important, more so than any other character, that you pick with and or against the right heroes as Zarya. She is best paired with duelists, since she can bubble them from the safety of her team while they can basically guarantee your charge by exerting their pressure with their hypermobility at the right time. You want to avoid playing Zarya against hypermobility comps where they can ignore you and kill your team through your bubbles. Additionally, avoid playing her into rangers, as they can give you limited charge and you have zero means of pressuring them since you have no mobility or any notable range that can contest them. While her viability is very obviously conditional, Zarya is an excellent tank to have in your back pocket, as her matchup spread is fairly solid as well. Zarya is unique in that she has 2 separate matchups depending on if she's charged or if she's not, so bear that in mind. In both charts, you'll notice some things remain the same. Junker Queen, D.va, and Orisa are almost always hard winning for her. She's able to completely cleanse Queen's bleeds as well as the anti from her ult. Her beam goes right through Orisa's spin, which fucks up her cooldown rotation, and her beam also goes directly through D.va's defense matrix. Other than that, you'll notice that the major difference between the 2 charts is that every one of her matchups gets brought up a tier if she's able to access this state. This is why it's critical on her more than any other hero, as I aforementioned, to pick her in the right scenario. Again, avoid Zarya into heroes like Widow, Ashe, Mercy, and Soldier. Pick Zarya into heroes like Junkrat, Mei, and the tanks that we just discussed. Most of the times, the maps don't matter to her as much as the picks that she's playing against and with do. Usually, people will gravitate towards long-range spam characters on maps like Circuit and Havana, so best avoid her there. However, you'll want to pick her on maps that are friendly to her range and her duelist friends, such as Midtown and Servasa. And there we have it. The most comprehensive counterpicking guide on this platform to date. Gentlemen, I made this video to be as timeless as possible. It doesn't matter when you're watching it, the concepts and principles that we just discussed will be applicable in your games. Now, I understand things like player skill and balance can adjust some of the stuff that we went over. However, I wanted to provide you guys with a general framework and baseline to go off of. If you stuck around to the end and you enjoyed the video, I really appreciate it, as this video took me a lot of time, effort, and energy to make. So thank you so much for that. And if you disagree with anything that I said and you didn't like it, then go ahead and fucking cry about it in the comments as well. Let me know of any other kinds of videos that you guys want to see, but for my next video, you can expect something related to Marvel Rivals. I will likely be streaming some of my time with the game, so go follow my Twitch and Twitter to be notified when I go live. If you want to improve some more and you didn't understand, or I didn't get to cover anything that you had a question about in this video, the best way to get in contact with me is to book some coaching, all ranks, all roles, all heroes, all that good shit. You guys know what's up, and special thanks once again to all my 6v6 warriors and the support that I got by last two videos. You guys are insane, and thank you again so much. Special shout out to Nace for voting me Coach of the Year. I really appreciate the vote and the nominee and all the support that I received, all that stuff. Thank you so much for that, but none of that would have been possible without my players, without my staff, and their dedication and commitment to me, themselves, each other, and the program. So thank you guys so much for all of your hard work. I love you guys. Now, most importantly, out of everything that we went over in this video, remember guys, stay aggressive, stay in the fight, never give up, and stay fucking hard.
Stay hard!